Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. This is the show where between my guest interviews with subject matter experts and topic-specific deep dives, the aim is to arm you with actionable insights and information on how to prioritize your metabolic health and improve your overall health and well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Animal-Based Dad podcast. I'm your host, Ricky du Plessis, and I am back with the wonderful Neill Friedman for what is the final episode in our deep dive series. Neill, welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. Just to make everybody conscious, we did say the last one was the final one at the start as well.
No.
This is the final one.
This is the last one for this series. I can't promise that there won't be more, but Neill, it's been a wonderful journey. And before we get into what this episode will be about, I just want to say thank you. It's been awesome. And I personally like the deep dive format because it breaks from the norm. And what I mean by that is the podcast world, particularly in the health and wellness or the metabolic health space, tends to be a lot of the same information on repeat. And what I mean by that is you'll get an expert or person of influence in a particular topic, and they'll go from podcast to podcast delivering their message, and their message is fantastic, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but it almost becomes a bio to begin with. Who are they? What do they do? Where they're from? That sort of thing. And then the sort of broad strokes, the keynotes of their particular message. And it's the same from podcast to podcast to podcast when you speak to the person. What I'm trying to do with this, and I want to say thank you to yourself and to Roderick, who did a short series with me beforehand, is to give people like you the platform to pick a topic and to get away from the broad strokes, to get away from the bio, to get away from the general podcasty sort of theme, and really get lost in the weeds a little bit. Now, I know that with this series, we've tried our best to stay away from getting lost in the reeds, so to speak. But I think it's been tremendously informative. I've really enjoyed doing it. And hopefully the listeners have enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Because as you say, from people like myself, I study mitochondria, and people understand that's what I do. So generally, if they invite me onto the podcast, that's what they want me to talk about. It is my field of expertise, or it's the recognized field of expertise. I hate that word expert. I really do the whole Dunning-Kruger thing. I was far more of an expert on all sorts of things before I actually studied them. Now that I've studied them, I'm not sure I'm an expert on anything anymore. But yeah, so it's quite nice to be able to do a series like this where we've actually just kind of had a free-flowing conversation, and the focus has actually been on, as you say, taking a machete to the reeds and trying to bring things down really, really back to the basics, and just try to to get it right down to the simplest things. I think we should remind people that we said this right in the very, very first episode when we did all of this, was that people who are trying to, or they've got something that they want to sell, they've got something that they want to put across in the metabolic health space, need to differentiate themselves, and they need to produce something that they believe adds value, because it's that value that they're trying to sell. And very often that means that the message is overcomplicated, because no one's going to invest money in something where you say you need to go for a walk every day. Yeah. But actually, you're probably going to get more financial return for going for a walk every day than for some of the more complex things that people are trying to get you to try. If you're not already doing the walk, if you're already doing the exercise and all that, then all these other 1% things kick in. So I think that I quite like the fact that you've given the space, and that you've given this opportunity for us to.
This episode is brought to you by my work as a Zinzino independent partner. To find out more about Zinzino and their pioneering work in test-based personalized nutrition, and how this can help you take the guesswork out of your personal health journey, please have a look at the episode description and complete the short survey linked therein. This episode is also brought to you by my new tech startup,
Biosim Technologies. At Biosim Technologies, we are creating intelligent, technology-driven solutions for human metabolic health, empowering individuals to embrace a biology-first approach to their lifestyle, health, and wellness. To keep up to date with our progress at Biosim Technologies, please look at the episode description and join our mailing list, where you will receive periodic updates on the exciting things that we have underway.
Clear the mess and just get right
Nice.
down to a really basic message.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. So, yeah, in our last episode, which was meant to be the last episode, which turned out not to be the last episode, we covered exercise and recovery. And what we said at the end of it was that we were going to do a quick overview, a synopsis of the entire series to give the viewers the key takeaways that we want them to have from this. And I know you've done a bit of preparation in the background. So with that said, I'll hand over to your good self and we can go through it.
All right. Yeah, so thanks. I think it might be quick just to very quickly go through what the 4 episodes were. So
Yep.
in the first episode, we really wanted to set the scene, and we wanted to help people overcoming some of the blockages that they put in their own way in terms of mental health, the excuses that we make. And we highlighted that often those excuses relate to energy, because at the end of the day, everything, the broad theme across all these episodes is that it's all about uh, managing the way we uh, take in and produce and then use energy. And we spoke about 3 different energy systems. And I'm not going to repeat that now. Go back to episode 1 if you want to hear what we're talking about there. But the point was, that was our common theme, was that it's all about energy, and it's all about the supply and demand of energy, with the food that we take in, the nutrients that we take in being all about our energy supply, physical activity being the additional demand that we put on ourselves for energy over and above the energy required to be alive.
Yeah.
And then the recovery and the sleep was all about being able to optimize that process. So we really just covered that very briefly in episode 1. Episode 2, we took a bit of a detour and we said how to think like a scientist without being one. And
Yeah.
again, I'll just point your viewers back to that. I'm not going to repeat it, but we did a really interesting exercise, which actually I wish more people would look at, to be honest with you, in terms of the idea, because it's the thing that doesn't happen at schools, where we basically found a headline on social media. And then we did a bit of a dive as to how do you then see what the validity of that headline is. How do you find the original science paper behind it to see if there is an original science paper behind it? And then how do you, without having to open up a thesaurus and 3 different textbooks, how do you be able to just kind of skim through a paper without being a scientist to try and see whether the paper itself matches the headline that you saw, and whether it actually pertains to you. We spoke about, because it's true in mice doesn't mean it's true in humans. Because it's true in a certain population group, maybe doesn't mean it might be you. Whatever, whatever the point is, it might be valid for an 18-year-old male. You might be a 65-year-old female. So different population groups, and how do we look at that? Looking at whether there's funding influences in terms of the paper, and then looking to see if we could go into Google Scholar. And again, if you don't know what Google Scholar is, I refer you back to episode 2. You could then look at, put those keywords into Google Scholar and see how many other papers there are on that same subject, because
Yes.
what's it? One swallow doesn't make a summer. So one paper, or even if it's 2 or 3 papers, but all coming from the same lab and the same scientists, doesn't necessarily make something. So you want to look for a body of work
Yeah.
across different labs. So we spoke about that. We then got into the nitty-gritty of things in episode 3, where we spoke about nutrition. And then, as you say, in exercise, in episode 4, we spoke about physical activity and recovery.
Yeah.
And what we said at the outset was that we wanted to strip things down, and we wanted to create a 3 by 3 matrix of just where to start if you don't know where to start. And we tried to create 3 potential starting points for each of the 3 topics in terms of nutrition, physical activity, and
Yeah.
recovery. So I have just very basically, and I'm going to share my screen, created a bit of a grid on an Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to hit the share button now, just for your viewers. Before we did this, we had a brief run. I forgot to actually share my screen. And Ricky is going to clean this up a little bit, and you'll tag this into the bottom of this episode. Of this episode, is that right? It's your podcast, Ricky?
Yeah, that's right. What I'll do is I will edit it in so that the viewers can see it as we're talking.
Okay. So we've basically said, so there's our 3x3 grid, and we might even create a bit of a fourth column now, and I'll explain that as we go through. And I'm not going to go into, because we've done the episodes, what each of these are, but the idea for this is to start improving your metabolic health. So our target here is somebody who doesn't know where to start. You've got a health issue, you just believe you've got a weight issue, or health issues relating to your weight is probably a better way of putting it, or you're just getting older and you want to start, extending and thinking about your health span and maybe trying to correct some sins of the past. And I'll say that knowing that both Ricky and I have come into the space from having had our own personal challenges previously. And again, somewhere in the 4 episodes, I can't remember which one, I think we both discussed some of our challenges. So again, I invite the viewers to go back. So this is just really a very basic starting point. So what we've said was, from the nutrition perspective, 3 basic starting points to consider trying is the concept of intermittent fasting, or a low carb type of diet, or just trying to reduce and cut back the ultra processed foods in your diet. Those are the ultra processed foods and snacks. And the idea that we're saying is now choose one of those options. Choose the one option. So firstly, go back to that episode 3 where we talk about nutrition and we detail how you can build up through each of these, and try to find the one of these that you think you'll be able to fit into your lifestyle the easiest. And start with that. So you will put a tick in the box for one of those 3, and that's what you're going to try from a nutrition perspective. Then we've said for physical activity, we created again 3, maybe 4 rules here. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So we've said the first option is make sure that you're never sitting for more than 20 minutes without getting up and doing something. So break up sitting with 5 minutes of walking every 20 minutes. So it doesn't matter whether you're at your desk, whether you're working from home, whatever it is, every 20 minutes, get away from your desk and stretch your legs. Just go for a walk for 5 minutes, go stand outside for 5 minutes. I will probably say the one exercise or the one activity I don't recommend is go outside and have a cigarette, right? That just doesn't feature into our podcast. But I can already see some people thinking, oh, I'll do that anyway. I'll go outside for a smoke. No,
no.
That's that.
Take
it off the board.
Nullifying the positive effects.
Yeah, you're doing a lot more harm than good. Right, so break up every 20 minutes of sitting or inactivity with 5 minutes of some sort of activity. Option number 2, we said you need to build up mitochondrial strength. And again, there's more details in this in episode 4. You need to get out of breath at least 3 times a week. So you want to build it up to maybe going for a long, proper, vigorous walk, maybe a run, maybe a cycle, whatever it is. But a good starting point is just walking up the stairs. Or walking down the stairs if you don't even walk up the stairs at the moment, or just do something to get yourself out of breath. So you've got to start to build up your cardiovascular health. And again, we talk a lot more detail about that in episode 4. So that's option number 2. And option number 3, and there's a little slash in there because that might be option 3 and 4, is some form of resistance training. So either lift or move something heavy. And my definition of heavy is what is heavy for you, for the listener. All right. So heavy is different for everybody, but it needs to be something that you can't say, well, I've picked up this pot plant 10 times if it's a 1 kilogram pot plant and it doesn't stress your muscles in any way. All right. So you've got to go outside of your comfort zone. But at the same time, you don't want to break your back. Don't start off thinking, I've never picked up anything off the floor before, but a good starting point is to see if I can break Eddie Hall's deadlift record and go with the 500 kilogram lift.
That's been broken now, just out of interest.
503, yes, by Hapful.
505. Yeah.
505. All right. Okay. You know what's going to happen. Eddie Hall's going to come out of retirement to beat him because they don't like. Anyway, let's say that for another day. All right. So that could be going to a gym. It could be working with resistance bands. It could be working in the garden, but not cutting the lawn. That's getting out of breath. I'm talking if your lawn's big. I'm talking about planting stuff making sure you're bending and moving your joints. All right. So you need to do that at least for at least an hour, twice a week. All right. And then I put there the slash, which maybe becomes option 4, is practice balancing exercises. And we spoke a lot more about that again in episode 4. That could be things like just getting used to standing on one leg. And we spoke about the idea of proprioception. So doing it with your eyes closed. And again, that starting point, make sure there's a stabilizing platform, a chair or a table near you, and you can work with that until you can do that. It'd be great if you can build up to doing handstands or something, but that's not the end goal necessarily. But just want to, and the reason I put those two to kind of together is the practicing and balance exercises is kind of more focused to somebody getting past 50. So, again, that's not to say you shouldn't be doing those sort of things when you're younger, but that's kind of specifically focused towards that market. And that also, I think the point that we made about the lifting and moving heavy stuff, the resistance training, although that is useful across age groups, there's a lot of perception that older people shouldn't do that. And that's actually 100% inaccurate.
Yeah.
The older you are, the more you should be focusing on lifting heavier stuffs. Your muscles naturally, we spoke about sarcopenia, and you gave a good explanation for that around your muscles naturally wanting to waste away as you get older, but that's not a given. By lifting heavy stuff, by doing resistance exercise, you can slow that and you can reverse that. And so the older you are, the more of that you should actually do. So again, as a starting point, choose one of those 3 potentially for bits of physical exercise, the one that's going to be the easiest for you to start off with, and start off by doing that and following the rules that we spoke about in episode 1. You want to do that, build it into a routine, because ultimately routine becomes habit, and set yourself some process-based goals. All of these are process-based things that you can do. And again, if you want to know the difference between a process-based goal versus an outcome-based goal, go back to episode 1.
Yes.
And then we spoke about recovery as the third option. And again, there's a 3/4 here. So the first thing we said was avoid blue light emitting screens and devices 20 to 25 minutes before bedtime. So turn the TV set off, turn the phone off, turn the laptop off, do something that doesn't involve a screen just before, 20 to 25 minutes before bed. Option number 2 was aligning your sleep patterns with natural light cycles. So look to try to wake up with the sun in the morning and go to bed with the sunset in the evenings, and work within the seasonal cycle within that. We spoke about that briefly in episode 4, and I do want to point people to the deep dive series that you did with Roderick, because I think Roderick speaks a lot more in detail about circadian rhythm and working with that. So I'll really talk people to, if that's the option you're going to choose in terms of recovery, then look at that deep dive that you did with Roderick. And then option number 3, leave the mobile phone off or in another room when you go to bed. So don't have the phone in the same room with you. A couple of reasons. Again, we spoke about that. So we spoke about the blue light that comes with the phone. We spoke about the flashing light, that there's a message, and all the other distractions with that. I've also was reading the studies the other day, which I think I only read after our recording of the last episode, around the EMF transmissions of the phone. So obviously they're constantly putting out radio signals. They're constantly pinging the cell phone tower, even when they're switched off. And so they're next to your bed. And of course, there's all the potential, and I say potential because the science is a bit up and down. But so just the fact that there's a device
there's the potential for
radio frequencies,
non-native EMF. I have some concerns with some of the studies in that space, and I have the misfortune of working in the mobile industry, so it is maybe it's inherent bias, but like with TV and radio, we're surrounded by signal all the time. Like you really have to go out into the sticks to find somewhere where there isn't signal. This is a receiver. It's not a transmitter. So it will receive the signal. If there's no signal, this can't do much. Yes, it does give off radiation, absolutely. And if you have a NADA detector, or I think I've pronounced that right, little EMF reader, and you would put it next to the device. It would pick up the EMF reading, and it would show you how much it is, but it's negligible. And if you put it down and you move a few feet away from it, you don't pick it up at all. So yeah, you don't want to be sleeping with it next to your head. That's for sure. You don't want to be scrolling late at night and then fall asleep with it on your face like that. That's not very
Sounds like your voice of experience.
No, but yeah,
as I said, we didn't touch that in the episode. I just saw a study on the other way recently, and for me it just makes sense just to leave the phone in another room anyway. That means you just don't get tempted to even look at it. So
yeah, I would say there is legitimate concern about non-native EMF, but I would steer people towards habits like turning off your Wi-Fi at night. Right, like that would be substantially more beneficial than having your phone far away from you, because your Wi-Fi emits a far stronger signal throughout the premises versus the radiation coming off your handset. So turn your Wi-Fi off at night. Fantastic habit to get into. Stop the EMF radiating through the house while you're trying to sleep, and sort of recover. Far better approach. I think we don't need to be worried about these too much. I think that people get distracted with these. It's the sources, or it's the transmitters that we need to be paying attention to, because they are exponentially more powerful in terms of their output.
Okay. You're the expert, so I'm not even going to argue in that field with you.
Not an expert, just yeah.
But I will go back to the fact that the reason we discussed this in the first place is around the blue light screens, etc.
Yeah.
And we spoke about the issue that people turn around and say, well, I have my phone next to me because it is my alarm clock. It sort of wakes me up in the morning. And we just said, there's no reason why you shouldn't just go back to an old school alarm clock like we used to have back in the day. Or as I said, I wear the Garmin, my watch, my fitness tracker, and it just vibrates to wake me up. So that works for me.
Yeah.
On something we didn't mention, but it's just something I was listening to today. I think I was listening to another podcast, and somebody mentioned something that I did think was interesting, was the harms of, was it on the news? I can't remember now. The harms of the snooze button. That basically, because we go through sleep cycles and we go through different cycles, when you hit the snooze button, you actually start and go back to sleep. You actually start your sleep cycle again, which means you're probably in the very worst place of your sleep cycle 5 minutes later when the alarm goes off again.
Yeah, that's why you always feel worse.
So you're actually making yourself feel worse and worse and worse every time you hit the snooze button. You're better off trying to get up the first time if you can. So I literally just was listening to something the other day. I haven't seen any science around it, but it kind of intuitively makes sense to me. So I use the vibrating watch. I think more and more people are now wearing these smart devices that have those as an alarm system, and I find it very effective. But as I say, just a good old fashioned alarm clock. I'm going to use the words wind up. Do people even make wind up clocks anymore? That's what I remember having.
You probably end up paying a lot of money for them because they'll be like vintage collectibles now.
Yeah, that's me. I'm a vintage collectible. But and if you're going to have a clock radio, I would go for one that's got a red digital LED screen, not a blue or green digital screen. So that was it. And then the other bit that we should have had under recovery, we spoke about it in the episode, and it kind of maybe goes into that fourth column where we put it around lift heavy and move stuff, is make sure you have adequate recovery between your lift heavy sessions. All right. So muscles need time to repair. And one thing you can't argue with is that repair time does take slightly longer when you're older. So if it's why bodybuilders, do split gym sessions. They don't do, they might do resistance training every day of the week, but they'll do chest on a Monday and legs on a Tuesday and arms on a Wednesday and back on a Thursday, whatever it might be. So you get it covered. If you're doing full body exercises, which I would advise what most of our target audience should be looking at as a starting point, where you work everything. We spoke about this again in the episode, from the biggest muscle group to the smallest muscle group in a session. So start with legs, end with arms. because everybody knows that working your arms only has one real purpose. There's not a lot of metabolic health in working your arms, but curls get girls. I remember being told that by a rugby coach when I was young. He did say to me, when you go to the gym, you need to train for your sport, and you don't need big biceps and triceps for playing rugby, because all the curls are for catching girls. So yeah, but it's your smallest muscle groups. Obviously, you want to work the biggest muscle groups and end with your arms. Everybody knows we all want to have nice big biceps, right? So yeah, all the males do, maybe not so much the females. Right. So but give yourself recovery times. If you're doing full body workouts twice a week, don't do it on a Monday and a Tuesday. Do it Monday and Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Wednesday, Friday. Yeah, work it out in your week planning, but give yourself plenty of recovery time between your resistant bouts. And that's why you can do your getting out of breath stuff on the alternative days.
Yeah.
So do the stuff that gets your cardiovascular. So really what we wanted to say was we'll put this out, we'll attach the spreadsheet, and I think you'll link it nicely into the podcast. But the idea here is you choose one nutrition option, one physical activity option, one recovery option from each of these. Put a little tick in the box on those three. Set your outcome-based goals as per episode 1 for each of those. Listen to episodes 3 and 4 for the details on those, and of course do your own research, which is where you'll use the knowledge that you require by listening to episode 2. Put it through there and really focus on building a routine around that. And when those things become a habit, because you've been sticking to your routine, then choose another one from each section, put a tick in that box and add that. Your target is, I would say, between 6 and 9 months. If you can have all 3 blocks ticked or all 9 blocks ticked, you really are on the path to improve metabolic health. And then you can start worrying about all the fancy other stuff that you see online. But this is your starting point. And that's really what this whole series was about. And we're just bringing it together. And obviously people can print off that grid, put the tick in the box. And I think that's a great starting point.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I love that you've framed that at the end there, that once you've done your first ones, you don't then drop them and move on to the next one. That's part and parcel of lifestyle now, and now you're looking to add to it. So as you're building and your capacity improves, you're adding additional positive habits to your lifestyle, so that you end up doing all 9 at the end of the day.
You've actually mentioned a very good word there that we didn't speak about in any of the episodes, and I'm glad you just triggered me to respond to that. We adapt. With everything we do, we adapt, which means if you don't make it harder, you're going to start going backwards. So with all 3 of these, I think we have touched on it in the episode. So when we spoke about going up the stairs, we spoke about originally, if you can only walk 1 flight of stairs and take the elevator to the other 2, you do that and you push that to 2, and then you push that to 3. But if you then, walking up 3 flights of stairs really easily and not getting breath out, not getting out of breath anymore, you need to add an additional activity. You need to either do it faster or whatever it is. So in technical terms, what we learned when I did my sports science degree, it's that expression in my head now and it's disappeared. Periodic overload. Is that the word I'm looking for? But effectively, you need to continuously extend yourself. So, and it's the same with the gym. If you start curling, go back to the arms and the curls. If you're curling 2 kg dumbbells. Yeah, progressive overload. There we go. That's the expression I was looking for. Yes, if you're curling 2 kilogram dumbbells, when that stops being difficult, you need to up it to 4, right? If you're squatting, I don't know, 10 kilograms on a 20 kilogram bar, so you're going 40 kilograms. As soon as 40 kilograms becomes relatively easy, you need to do progressive overload. You either need to make it heavier or increase volume. And that's the other thing that's really important. Increasing volume is increasing the workload. So sometimes you will find that maybe, let's talk about squats, right? Because squats is one of those exercises that's really good for your legs and it's really good for your posture. But at a certain point in age, you get to a point where you just a bit too much more weight maybe just puts undue pressure on your spine, which is not necessary. So does that mean that you get to a point where you can't make the squats any harder because the weight on it is your legs are getting stronger, but your spine is having a problem. Well, at that point, you can still progressively, you can still progress without adding more weight, but by adding volume. So take 10 reps per set into 12 reps per set, or go from 3 sets to 4 sets. You can continuously increase the volume without endangering your spine. So you need to take these things into account. But yeah, you got to keep pushing yourself. Whatever you're doing, you got to as soon as it stops being hard, you're not adapting anymore.
I think
so it's great when it's not hard anymore. It shows you're getting somewhere.
100%.
But keep making it difficult.
Yes, and the key sort of a mindset shift that I want people to take away from this is, with metabolic health, you've never arrived. Right? This isn't your crash diet because you've got prom coming up, or you've got a wedding coming up, or some spring break, or whatever the case may be, and you want to get to a certain weight, and you get there and you've now arrived, and you can do your event and then let everything go. That's not how metabolic health works, because on the other side of that, you'll yo-yo back and you'll probably be worse off than what you were when you started. So you need to accept that this is a lifelong journey. And excuse me, we'll go back to your point on setting progress or process related goals in the first episode, because it's the process, it's the journey that you need to fall in love with, because you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life if you want to enjoy good health outcomes across your lifespan. So you never arrive. It's not like you do this and you get to a certain point, to use the weights analogy that we've just been talking about, where you can lift that sort of particular weight and you can do all your reps and your sets and you think, oh, no, I'm done now. No, it needs to continue to progress. As your capacity grows, you need to continue to stress yourself safely, but to continue to grow with it.
And mix it up. I think we probably didn't, is your body does adapt. So if you're doing the same exercises all the time, and you've been doing the exact same exercises for months and months and months, again, you're getting to the point where the adaptations that you're getting are getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
So work the same muscle groups, but work them in different ways. So you may be doing things like squats as a starting point in terms of of a leg exercise as your primaries, but you may find that after a couple of months of doing squats, maybe you want to switch to the machine and do leg curls and leg extensions to work the same muscle group, but in a different way. Or do split squats. I'm not going to go into the details of those. You can Google all these things online.
Split jumps.
Do split squats and something called raised rear foot split squats. I quite like those, where you just basically stick one foot on a bench behind you.
Split squats, yeah. I was doing those today. You put your back foot up on the box behind you, and then
that's the one.
Try to keep your balance when you're going up and down and not fall on your face and look a fool.
Yeah. But if you fall on your face and look a fool, you just hope someone's filming it so you can send it off to you in framed and get your 250 pounds, or at the very least, you'll know you'll end up in one of those comedy fails.
What you'll end up on Instagram.
Somebody will have filmed it and I'll stick it into a montage, and you'll get your 15 minutes of fame on the internet. So but again, all of those things that we're touching on now are kind of the stuff that you can look into on your own. There's loads of information online. I just go back to our whole starting point of that. When you go down those rabbit holes, stick to the big stuff. Look at the videos that show you how to use your form properly to do things technically correct. Again, this isn't a training video, but if you're doing that sort of thing in the gym, basic idea for everything is you want to have a neutral spine position. So you want to have your back up straight with a little curve at the bottom of your spine, and you want to keep your head up facing forward. If you're doing it, I'll go back to curls, whatever, and you're putting in so much effort that you put your head on your chin and you're pushing down like that, you've got too much weight on. All right. If you're swinging your whole body to get the weight to move instead of just the muscle group you're trying to use, take some of the weights off. What you're then doing is you're actually feeding your ego and not your muscles. All right.
Yes.
So check the ego at the door, and do it within your range. and do it properly, you're not going to injure yourself. That's probably the most important. But also, it's very easy to make it look, even to yourself, like you're capable of doing a load heavier than you actually can, because you're using the wrong muscle groups, you're doing it the wrong way. And I'll go back to the point that we definitely did make in that episode 4. The machines in the gym are designed to work in an anatomically correct way. When you see people standing on a machine where they should be sitting, or they're hanging upside down by one leg and whatever it is,
people do some weird stuff, man.
yeah, there's no better. The machines, if you're at a starting point and you're in the gym, use the machine the way the little pictures on the machine shows you how to use it. Don't look at something online that says you're going to get a stronger backside if you're standing up. You know, your glutes will get stronger if you do your hip abductors standing up, which is something I see the girls doing a lot. So hip abduction, and they do it standing instead of in the sitting position on the machine. I don't get it, but yeah, basic rule: neutral spine, keep your head up. I think what's it, head in line, neutral spine, head in line. I think was the expression the person who led my personal training course was using as a
nice
as a good cue, right? But we're focusing a lot now on the exercise type. We now said we shouldn't really need to be doing that because it's all in episode 4.
It's all in the episode. Yeah,
we've got our grid, we've got our 9x9 point, our 3x3 point. What I would really, really love to see is people trying it. I'd like to see your listeners. I think in my bio that you've included, I think it probably has my LinkedIn address and your LinkedIn address.
Yeah.
I just love to see somebody putting up a graph and saying, these are the 3 I've chosen, and this is what I'm going to do to start.
Nice.
And share that, put it through there, and DM me, DM Ricky. I mean, we're all got busy lives, but I'm really happy to answer someone's questions. If you're about to start your metabolic health journey and you found anything within these 5 episodes useful that gets you motivated and shows you where to start, and you want to ask a question, I will have the time to answer your question.
Awesome.
Because if you're taking the time to listen to this, and this is going to help you start a journey. I remember when I started mine back in 2005, and it's the help of other people that's always great. So I'm available. I'm sure you're available as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. Yeah. If any of the listeners want to reach out, whether it's via comments in the platform itself or getting hold of us via DM and on one of our social feeds, absolutely got the time of day for that. Good stuff. Well, Neill, I think we've summarized that pretty well. I don't think we need to go back into any of the details on any of that. Any last points for the listeners to take away?
No, I think we've got the message there. Download the grid. Just start. Just whatever you do, choose a process-based goal, commit to that process, forget the outcome, and just start. When you follow these things, all the things that you're scared about probably aren't going to happen.
Yep.
Some of the challenges you will have are things you haven't thought about yet. They'll catch you by surprise, but there'll be people to help you. There always are.
Yeah.
And the hardest part is day one. There's an expression. I've always known this, and I believe it's an African expression or South African expression, but I'm not sure that it is. I've heard other people say it, which says the question is, how do you eat an elephant? One spoon at a time, right? And that's what this is. Just take the first step. Just eat the first spoon. Don't worry about the rest will come. Before you know it, you'll be on your journey, and you'll be one of Ricky's guests on his podcast, sharing your knowledge
There we go.
in a couple of months' time. So, just start. Whatever you do, just start.
Brilliant. Couldn't have said that any better myself. Well, thank you, Neill. like I said in the beginning, I've appreciated your input on the series. I think it's been tremendously valuable, and I hope that the audience takes away some good stuff from it.
Well, it's been a pleasure doing it. Cheers, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching the episode. I hope that you found the conversation meaningful and informative, and I hope that it has empowered you with some tools and insights that you can take to tweak and improve your own lifestyle approach in pursuit of optimal metabolic health outcomes. If you've enjoyed the episode, and if you're enjoying the podcast, I'd like you to do me the kindness of please subscribing to the channel, giving it a like, maybe even giving it a share. Help to raise awareness and get the podcast in front of as many viewers as possible, because it is my passion to try and help as many people as possible to understand more of the nuance around metabolic health and how to tweak their lifestyle in pursuit of optimal outcomes. Also, if you have any constructive feedback, things that you think I could improve on, any critiques, any criticisms, please do feed them back. I give you my solemn word that I will take them seriously, and I will, to the best of my ability, work to improve and to give you a more refined and more targeted product as a result of your feedback. So I will take it seriously, and I'll do what I can to improve the show. But again, thank you very much for watching. Keep thriving.